Hello, and welcome back to Amateur Philosophers Play Games. I'm Noah, your host.
And I'm Justin, who's playing the game.
And this is the show where we play video games on the internet and discuss philosophical ideas, problems, and philosophize about random topics. Of course, just a disclaimer, as always, neither of us are professional philosophers. We're just two dudes on the internet who like talking about this stuff. So let's jump right into it. Today we'll be continuing Justin's playthrough of Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Last time, Justin, you unlocked the Magnesis rune, which is very neat. You control the power of magnets. And, of course, in the discussion, we're going to be talking about the ship of Theseus, a classic philosophical problem. So, Justin, why don't you explain what the ship of Theseus is, what the problem is?
So, the idea is about personal identity, and the question is, if Theseus was a famous hero in Greek philosophy, or Greek mythology and history, and he set out on a journey in a ship, and as the ship was traveling, it got damaged. They had like storms and things, and eventually things had to be replaced. And
pieces of the ship,
pieces of the ship had to be replaced over time, like the sails, and eventually every part of the ship has been replaced. So the sails are all new, and boards are not the originals. And when he returns to Athens, the question is it the same ship that makes port that he left in? So after everything's been replaced slowly over time, is he still in the same ship?
Yeah, so that's interesting because I've heard a slightly different variation where this is after Theseus is dead. The people of Athens want to remember him, so they put his ship in a museum, and they say, they put his ship in a museum, and they say, this is the ship of Athens, the ship of Theseus. Now, over time, long periods of time, ships do what they do and they wear out. So one day, one of the boards of the ship is too old and rotten for the display. So the people of Athens, the museum caretakers, replace that board with a new one. And as time goes on, more and more boards are replaced. The old boards are piled in the old rotten boards are piled in an alley behind the museum, whereas the new shiny ones are put on the ship. After a while, the ship, as you can guess, has been fully replaced by new boards. So the question is, which is the real ship of Theseus? The brand new replica in the museum, or the pile of boards seen in the alley, or both, or neither. But let's start with your variation because I think it's a bit simpler.
Okay.
You're getting shot by these guys. Yeah, it's a bit simpler because there's not the two options; it's just one option.
Yeah, it's just the question of is it the same ship as opposed to which one is the real ship. So it's a lot simpler to think about.
Justin, you're the philosophy major here. Is it the same ship?
So there's arguments for and against it being the same ship. I personally believe that it is the same ship in my version, and that's only because it is in relation to Theseus is how the ship is identified. Because the ship is owned by Theseus, that's what makes it the ship of Theseus. So regardless of how it's replaced or where it is in relation to the world, as long as Theseus is alive, we would still say, oh, this is the ship of Theseus, this is his ship. And so that's what gives the ship Theseus its identity, is its relation to Theseus.
So I see your point. It's an interesting point. I have two, I wouldn't say disagreements, but questions I raised from it. Eat an apple, you're gonna die. Yeah. So the first question is, so you say it's the ship of Theseus. Now, what if we labeled it the ship of Joe the Red Shirt, who dies on Theseus' first mission? So it's the ship of Joe now. Poor Joe doesn't get acknowledged in any of the Greek myths. Very sad. He dies in the first encounter with some barbarians. So he dies, but it's still the same ship, or is it? It's still the same ship when it makes port in Athens. Joe's not here anymore, but the ship is still here, or is it?
Right, so that gets into whether or not the ship is related to Joe, and so that gets more accurately into it's the ship's identity. So
does the ship have an identity?
Exactly. So, and this is why it relates more. It's a lot easier to see with personal identity when we talk about who we are.
Easier. I think that's a bit harder. Let's stick with things like boats that don't get offended when you tell them they don't exist.
Right, but as far as having the identity, we usually don't think of ships as having identities, but in that case, it's easy to think about. So, the question is the ship itself the same? And I'm not sure from the non relational perspective if it can be considered the same ship, because if like we said, if you take all of the parts and they've worn out and then you put them together, do you now have like a new ship? Like do you have two of the same ship? So if I took the old planks and I put them together in the old sail and I put them all together, do I now have two ships of Theseus? Are the ships?
You could possibly, because they can't both be the ship of Theseus. Either, see, the way I see it, this comes down to what makes an object itself, which sounds like a simple question, but honestly, it's kind of not a simple question. Let's boil it down even more. A ship is a fairly complicated thing. Let's say it was the potato of Theseus. What makes a potato a potato? Is it have to be in a certain shape? Does it have to come from a certain plant? I would say generally yes. So then this raises the question, well, if I boil a potato, is it still a potato?
Right. I think, well, there's the question, what makes a potato, or what makes this potato this potato? Because
Yes.
I think is more accurately what makes this ship this ship.
Okay, that's a good point. That's a good point. Okay, then ignore my potatoes. Potatoes are wrong.
There is actually a really simple thought experiment that was proposed by Max Black that highlights this a lot better. He proposed of thinking of a universe where only two identical spheres exist. Metallic spheres exist, each 20 meters in diameter, equidistant apart from each other, and those are the only two things in existence. What makes the spheres different? What makes this sphere this sphere?
I would say their matter and their distance. Oh, I'm sorry. Your praying level is not good enough.
No. Faith is strong. Is not strong with this one.
No, it's not. You need to go find more shrines.
No shrine.
But
This is the Temple of Time.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
so yeah, what does make the two? I would say the fact that there are two of them means that they are distinct. Because
Right.
Two things cannot be the same thing,
Exactly.
probably.
And there's a fancy Greek word for what makes them separate, and have their own identity, but it's unclear on what exactly what it is. So the Greek word is like hexaity. That your hexaity is what makes you you, or what makes the ship of Theseus the ship of Theseus. But the only definition we have for that is like hexaity is the thing that makes you. That's like that. So it's not a very
Not a very useful definition, yeah.
because it's an unclear topic. And so if you think of this two spheres or the ship of Theseus as being made of the things that the matter and boards and things like that, then it seems like if I pull the boat apart, replace each board one by one slowly over time, but keep them in keep the boards in like a pile of trash, and then reassemble the broken pieces, that I have two ships of Theseus.
You have two ships, but
Yes.
Okay. Let's go back to your original illustration, your original topic, because I think we're getting confused already. And
Okay.
Oh goodness, we're less than 10 minutes in, and we're already chasing our own tails. Going back to the original definition, what if Theseus replaced each of the boards, instead of replacing them with wood, he replaced them with metal? And when the ship rolls back into port, it's now a metal ship. Is it still the same ship?
I don't think so.
Okay, so that's really helpful, because I would agree that in this case this means the matter of an object as well as the idea of it does matter. What a thing is made out of also
Matter matters.
matter matters. You hear it here, folks. So this means that what an object is made of matters, which is, I agree. So going back to the original ship of Theseus, then why doesn't the wood matter? Is all wood substitutable for different wood? And if you want to say yes, then you can get into little distinctions like, well, what if Theseus' original ship was built of oak wood, but the new one is built of beech trees? What kind of trees are there? Beechwood. Yeah.
So
Does that make a difference?
I think that does. So I think because each one has its own advantages and disadvantages, so the ship can't do the same thing that it could do before.
You're just walking back in the circle to where you came. Sorry.
Okay. Is this where I started?
That's the shrine. Look to your right.
Oh.
Look. See, it's blue, so that's the one you just did.
Oh. Is there a way to find those ones I haven't done yet? Or do I just wander around?
I mean, you were one. Just scan the horizon. Look around. Look right. I think it's one. Oh, see way over there in the corner, like straight ahead of you. There's that orangish glow.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. so you were going there and you just turned around. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. That, what you said, the matter matters.
Right.
So the beech wood is different from the oak wood?
Yes, because, like, okay, for instance, like, if you had a ship that was made of cedar wood, has a weakness of moths like to eat cedar wood, and so it gets more likely to be damaged, and so the ship can't be called the same because it can't do the same things that the other ships could do.
Yes, but then you start to run into the problem. No two oak trees are the same. So this oak tree, what about the original oak tree it was built of was particularly old and hardy, whereas the new oak tree that Theseus replaces it with, it's a little newer, it's a little younger. The boards are a bit bendier. Is this matter? Is it still the same ship with Theseus?
Well, I'm not sure, because if you...
How granular do you want to make this definition is the real problem here.
Yes, I think the issue is if you go purely off of what I was saying with the what each ship can do, and that's how you separate them, then I think you get into the issue. You're saying that, like, your history is what makes you who you are. You're like a compilation of your past, and that's what makes you you, or that's what makes the ship. So, for instance, if you had a ship that, like the new ship, that has been like, made of metal and everything, it hasn't done all the things that the original ship did. Like, it hasn't sailed to that port or whatever. So, like, it's somehow it's different. And I think while I think it's relevant, I'm not sure if that's enough. If that makes sense. To say that
it doesn't make sense. No, I'm sorry. Keep explaining. This is, yeah.
So you're saying that if you replace, I'm sorry. Repeat your point to make sure I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
So.
My point is, I'm divided on whether the material an object is made out of has to do with what it is. Okay, let's back this up a little bit. Let me make my point about what I think makes an object an object. What makes the ship of Theseus the ship of Theseus? What makes a potato a potato? What makes me me? I believe it's some combination of the material it's made of, so the physical matter, be it wood, metal, potato, skin, and the history behind it, the legacy, if you will, the experiences the ship has had. Now, I don't know what the proper formula is, how much matter, how much little column A of matter, how much little column B of history, but I believe you need some combination of the two of those. And if you don't get both of those, or if both of those drop below a certain threshold, it's no longer the same ship. What that threshold is, that's very hard to say, because again, is it the difference between wood and metal? Okay, is it the difference between oak wood and beech wood? Is it the difference between two different oak trees? Who can say? If we had an easy answer, philosophers would have thought of this already, but I don't think there is one. So yeah, you see my point here. It's some combination of having both the legacy and the material.
Okay. So, first of all, is this where I'm supposed to be?
This is the temple where you were. So I think what you want, go around, turn right here. Let's see. Go around the corner. See up there, like it's on that cliff. So you need to probably like go. If you go over the sledge, I think you can. Yeah.
I see. Okay. So yes, I think that it is the combination makes sense, and I think you're exactly right. The issue comes in where you start saying, okay, well, how much? Like, for instance, if I lose my memories, am I the same person?
Well, this gets even crazier. Your body is not continuous. Your skin cells are constantly dying and being rebuilt.
Right. I think it's every like 7 years you're a completely new person.
Right. So, does that mean once you turn 7 years old, you're no longer the same person? Or even if you don't have to say it doesn't have to be a total thing. If one skin cell flakes off right now, am I? I mean, I don't have the same material.
Quantitatively, you are different.
Quantitatively, I'm different. Am I different qualitatively? Does that mean anything?
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of interesting ways to like implications that this has, because it means that, like, what makes for, like, personal growth? Like, when you have personal growth, what does that mean? Are you a new person, or are you just slightly different?
We often say, even in the common language, oh, I'm not the same person as I was a year ago, or 5 years ago, or back then. But do we really mean it? Do we really think, because I had this great experience, or this strong experience, I'm really, truly no longer the same entity as I was, say, a year ago?
Right, and I think
I don't think I don't think when people use that phrase, they don't generally mean it. They mean I've changed. No doubt about it, you haven't changed. You've perhaps grown, but
it would be difficult to truly assert that you are
a new
person that has never existed before.
Right.
I'm just gonna drop these. I don't feel like they're relevant.
You might want to, if you go back, you can drop the you can drop a tree branch.
Oh yeah, I don't need that.
Yeah. Also, real quick, scroll over to your clothing. Wait, yeah, you can equip better armor or better legs. Yeah. Now you are wearing pants. But again, okay, is Link the same person? He's now wearing a new pair of pants. Does that make him? I mean, even clothing. That's a good point.
Right. Does that do new clothes make a new man? And it would seem that they don't.
It would seem that they don't. But if our argument is true, where your matter matters, we come to the conclusion that yeah, they do.
Yeah, you can't say that you're a new or that you're the same because you're.
By the way, I think you're going in the opposite direction again.
Oh, no.
It's I want to say it's like way up on that mountain up there, I think.
Oh, I see. I thought you were thinking this way. But yes, so I think that you changing your clothes changes something about you, but it's still you. So like, for instance, if it gets an upgrade, I think that's actually a good point when you're talking about the metal and changing the structure of your ship, how that changes how we see the ship. I think it comes down to the difference between upgrading the ship versus getting a new ship. It seems that if we simply upgrade it, we don't think of us as being new or the ship being new. We think it's the same ship, just slightly better. And so, how many grains of sand does it take?
Right, but the question then, does being better make you new, or make you something different? Okay, this is why I think the whole idea of matter versus legacy is where my version of the example I think is useful, because this neatly divides up. Okay, here's the ship with the legacy. Here's the pieces that have the matter. So. Do you mind if we move over to that version of the events?
Yeah,
so yeah, mine is,
right?
as a reminder to a few minutes ago, mine is that the people of Athens have a museum, and the museum piece rots over time, so they collect both the rotting wood and, I don't know, leave it in the back alley. I think you need to go inside. There's like a cave over there. You gotta go kill more people. There's a rotting alley, or there's a rotting wood in the alley, and then there's the replica that's all new. So, which of those is the real ship of Theseus? I think, based on what we're saying, neither of them is. The ship of Theseus doesn't exist anymore.
It has ceased to exist, and you say it's not. Why?
I say it's not because not the rotting wood, it might have the material, but it doesn't have the legacy. It doesn't have the right shape of being the ship.
Right, and
which I think is
trash?
The pile of trash. That's the pile of trash, yeah. Oh. And then it doesn't have the right shape. And then the replica, it has the legacy. It's one continuous line, if you will. You can now bomb people.
Oh,
yeah, it's one continuous line. It's one continuous line, but it doesn't have the matter. So I think in the version where you separate I think this helps because when you separate them too, it becomes clearer that you really don't have the ship in either of them. They're both of them are not the ship. They're both objects. Or I suppose this gets into, is a pile of objects also an object? But let's not go there right now. That's but yes,
a little too deep.
Little too deep. But they both are objects. But they're neither is the original ship of Theseus.
I would disagree. Because you're saying.
So which one is the original ship then?
Well, I think you're giving away when you say original. I think the original ship is the ship that.
You have to.
The original ship is the one is the pile of trash. Because.
But it's not a ship anymore.
But if you put it in the shape of a ship, then becomes a ship of Theseus. Is that what it takes? Just because it doesn't have the right form. So then if I put it back in the form, do I now recreate the ship of Theseus?
That is a very interesting question. So, that is a good point. So if, let's say you repair the ship one piece by one piece with new replicas, and then collect the trash, but then later on, the Athenians realize, oh hey, we have all the originals here.
Right, and a good way to think about it is to... Don't think about it as, like...
you didn't actually take it. You want, like, your inventory's full.
Oh, okay. That's
left.
useless.
I think if you... Oh, whoops, not that one. Yeah. No, it's, sorry. Well, this one. There we go. R. Yeah. The right trigger.
I see. Okay.
And you have to show each... Well, the thing is, each type has its own inventory slots. So shield have their own slots, weapons have their own slots. So you need to drop a weapon.
I see. Okay.
No, the right stick.
Oh, the right stick. I see. Okay.
Yeah. Right. My point is, where were we? Oh yes, we were talking about if you reproduced the ship with the rotting wood. I would say no, it's not, because it lost the legacy is the word I'm using. Although I'm sure philosophers have a better word for it. It doesn't have the continuous
experiences.
The continuous experiences. It lost that. So I would say no. Once you've broken the ship of Theseus this way, it's gone. You can't really get it back.
So, like, a good way to think, or a counter would be, let's say the ship isn't destroyed, like, the pieces aren't worn out. If I take apart my car, and, like, piece by piece, replace the part, they aren't worn out, right? I just replace them because I want to replace them. And then I put new... If I put a new piece on, and then I have this pile of junk, right? So it's not the car. But then I put the pieces together, and the car starts. It works just like before. Do I now have two of the same car?
So you now have two of the same car? No, it's not the same car.
I'm sorry. Do I have my original car?
I see. No, you don't, because again, I think we're gonna come up to a snag here. It doesn't have the unending experience.
I mean, it does. I mean, it came from this part. It moved over here. All it did was simply move the location. Because
oh, you're saying you like built a new car piece by piece with this?
Yes. So
well, there we go. It's in the phrase. It's a new car. It's not the same car. It is a new car, and it's made of the same materials, but it's not the same. This is getting more existential.
Well, okay, so wait, you're saying that if I take my car apart, and like, let's say I do this in a day, or let's say something simpler, something not so difficult to take apart. What's something really simple you could take apart and put back together? A puzzle. No.
I think puzzles are reasonable.
No, because like I'd have to have two different. It has to be something I could create. Okay, yeah. So let's say I have a puzzle.
Also, you notice it's freezing up here.
Yeah.
I'm
trying to find the. Where is it? No, it's here somewhere.
I think it's above you.
So if I have a puzzle, right? I put the puzzle together. We agree that is this puzzle, right? So I have this new puzzle.
Right.
Alright, and then let's say, like, I take a piece off of the puzzle. I put it over here on my right. And then I replace it with that piece with another puzzle piece that I have from the exact same kind of puzzle. And I do that bit by bit in the same, like, 10 minutes or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Do I have the original puzzle on my right?
This gets into interesting problems of duplication where you have, but I'm gonna ignore that for now because I don't think it's super relevant. Do you have the original puzzle back? Based on what I've been saying so far, I'd have to say no, you don't.
Right, but like, and that seems weird because all I've done is move each puzzle piece individually. So once I move something around, then it's no longer the same.
See, that doesn't sound right, but the alternative also doesn't sound right. So what are you saying here?
That's a great feeling of philosophy.
Yes. By the way, you're up and freezing. I know we kind of skimmed over it, but if you go to a fire pit where one of the goblins are fighting, and you cook the spicy peppers, you can make a heat resist potion or cold resist potion.
Oh, there's fire. Yeah. So I think you do have the original because you're just moving the pieces. So it seems that like if I moving the pieces around doesn't seem to be sufficient to say that the puzzle is destroyed.
So it sounds like what we need to do here, we need to make a distinction between if something is pulled apart but in such a way that it could be reproduced versus if something is totally destroyed. Like, let's say you burned the puzzle pieces, now are the ashes the same puzzle? I think we would agree, no, that's not the same. Because, okay, so I think then...
What you're saying is the matter, so if
I'm saying it's both the matter and the experience. But, you know, I'm going to add a third thing. I was making this implicit, I really think. You need the matter the legacy or the experience, and you need generally the same shape. What I mean by shape is, you know, a form. Yeah, a boat is in the shape of a boat. So if you take the ship of Theseus and tear all the boards out and leave them lying around, it's no longer the ship of Theseus because it's not in the right form. Yeah, it's no longer in the right form, so it's no longer the ship. I think you have to actually, there has to be like a pot there, so...
Oh, that's different.
But yes, again, the ship is in the wrong form. It might have, the boards might be the same material, they might arguably have the same history behind them, but they're not the same... They don't have the right shape to be another ship.
But if I put them in the right shape, then they have the legacy, they have the form, they have the matter.
All right, adding another layer here. This is complicated. You have to have a legacy of form. So you don't necessarily have to, I don't know where the border is. You have to be the exact same shape, but it has to be. There's a spectrum there where you have to be the same shape for in some way.
Okay, so for instance, let's say you have to take apart a car or like a computer in order to fix it. Are you saying that you no longer have the same computer just because you took it apart?
That sounds like what I'm saying. You're right.
But that doesn't sound right. It seems that I can have the same computer if I take my computer apart and put it right back together. It doesn't seem that I've created a new computer, or my old computer is destroyed.
I don't know. I've been talking, and I think we've sufficiently debunked my theory. It's your turn. What do you say? Is it the same computer?
I think it is. I don't think that I don't think that taking the computer apart somehow changes its identity. I think it's the same computer, has the same history, and all the parts I can trace back through a linear point in time.
So how all right, that's fair. So you're saying if I have my PC computer, I deassemble it, and then I reassemble it, it's the same computer?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a time limit? So for example, if I deassemble it, leave the pieces in a box for, I don't know, a week, and then reassemble it, is it the same computer?
I would still say yes. It seems like
okay.
You still have the same computer.
A month?
Yes.
A year?
Yes.
If I die and leave it to my grandson to reassemble it, is it the same computer? Okay,
because
interesting.
Because I can continue it the same way like we look at ourselves in like child photos, and we say, oh look, that was me, but that is me. It's because we can trace on the timeline, a linear perspective of where the matter and the form have gone through. You can put them like side by side and see this is where it started, this is where it's going, and the pieces have remained the same, or are in relation to each other in time.
Okay.
So the pile of trash is the ship of Theseus. That
sounds reasonable. So then we finally, wrapping back to your example, the one where Theseus keeps the ship and keeps replacing it. It doesn't have the same matter. It's not the same things. So is that the ship? It has the
replace it.
If you replace it piece by piece, yeah.
I'm just gonna get out of here because I need to find
a campfire.
Yeah, I need to find a campfire.
Yeah.
So if you replace it piece by piece, is it the same ship? And that's where I say no. It's not.
So
you have a new ship now.
So then this raises the question:
if we're not doing it in relation to is the ship of Theseus because it is the ship of Theseus. So
okay.
Is it the same ship? No.
Okay. So then this raises the question: all these old boards that are, I don't know, floating in the ocean somewhere, are those collectively the ship of Theseus?
Collectively, yes. Individually. So I think
can you say they're collective because they're so separated?
So if you collect them, then they are the ship of Theseus.
What does that mean? What does it mean to be collected in that sense? So is there a certain distance they have to be apart? Like, can you measure it? Because I mean, they're all
in the form of the ship, the way the ship was originally.
They have to be assembled in the form.
Yes.
But you just said in my version of the example, the pile of wood that's not assembled in the form is the ship.
So I guess I would say that no. I guess
you see, there's a problem here. We've got.
You could say the ship. We have no trouble saying the ship is divided up into pieces.
I mean, I have a little trouble saying that, but I see your point.
So it seems that, like, no, there is some, probably an arbitrary distance that we think of as, well, no. I would say that we say that the ship is in the ocean in pieces.
Yeah, there's no pot there.
I'm gonna get these apples, though. So we'd say that the ship is in the ocean in pieces. If you wanted to find the ship, where would you look? In the ocean, in pieces. They're not collected, and so we find it a little irksome, but we still say that's where the ship is.
Yeah. You could say that, but you could say that, but then okay. Then how about me? Am I not me? I'm all of the skin cells that are floating around the Earth somewhere?
That is another way this thought experiment usually goes, is that if you goes back to, are you the same person that you were as a kid? Like, are you the same person? And it seems that, like, saying yes, like, I am Justin, I'm the same kid that, I'm the same person who went to, like, my elementary school, but I'm somehow still the same, even though if I collected all of my dead skin cells and put them together, do I have two me's now?
I think there is an interesting distinction where we need to make here. We've been talking, or I've been talking at least, a little bit about forms, right? So, and I think with that we can go to function. So you're alive, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Even if you were to somehow collect all your same skin cells, and even if by some miracle of patience put them in the shape of a Justin, they would not be alive.
Correct.
So I think, in that sense, we can say it's not you because it's missing a crucial function, i.e., your life.
So there is an idea to that. So, for instance, what is a doorstop? Stop.
Something that stops the door.
Right. So then, is a book a doorstop? Or because if I use it as the function of stopping a door, is it therefore a doorstop?
I suppose so.
Or am I simply using it as a doorstop?
That sounds closer.
So the function there, it has to have its original intention behind what it is, and that is like gives it its meaning and its identity. And something can imitate it, but that doesn't make it that thing. So just because you stop it, like, if you are holding the door for somebody, are you a doorstop?
Aren't you? Are you not?
It depends. If you think that a doorstop is simply anything that stops a door, then yes. But it seems like when I say, oh, I bought a doorstop, you have the same money you get a wedge, right?
Yeah.
And
like
that is what a doorstop is. So,
all right. So we've gotten on a lot of tangents. Where are we?
We are still disagreeing about whether or not the ship that pulls into port is the ship of Theseus, I think. What are we saying? I am saying it's not, because it doesn't have the right material. And I'm saying that it is if you think of it as having... If you think of it in terms of... If you think of it in terms of a relationship, then yes, it is the same. However, if you think of it as in terms of...
Real quick, I'm going to show you how to do this. So, open your item menu. Yeah, click over to your consumables.
Where?
Yeah, far right, yeah. So now if you say just grab one of the chili peppers, hold it. Yeah. And then if you drop it in the...
I think I have to light it first.
Oh, of course. It's on fire.
So I'll find a torch. But anyway, continue.
Yes. What am I continuing? Yes, you don't have the right... You're saying it is the same ship because it's... yeah. It doesn't have the right ship because it's... I'm saying it's not the same ship because it doesn't have the same materials, even if it does have the legacy and it does have the function. You're saying the fact that it's not the same materials doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, the fact that it does have the same materials is irrelevant from a relationship standpoint. So if you look at it as... it's the ship of Theseus because it relates to Theseus and he owns the ship, then it is the same ship. But if you want to say that, if you want to look at it from the perspective of whether or not it's the ship itself, it's not in relation to others, but just by itself, if it is the same ship, then I would say it is not the same ship. Yes, I would say it's not the same ship because I believe the ship is lost and is now floating in the ocean in various pieces.
See, I think the ship doesn't exist anymore. The ship, I say the ship doesn't exist anymore.
At all. Oh, I can't cook that. Okay.
Yeah, it's already cooked. You can bake more apples up.
So yes, you think it doesn't exist? It's not in existence.
I think the ship of Theseus no longer exists. There is a ship. There are some planks, but neither of them is the ship of Theseus.
Even if I put them back together in the same shape.
I'm gonna hold off judgment on that one, but I will say while they are not in the same, while the planks are not in the same shape. Oh no, that's right. I'm saying you're right. No, even if you put them back together, it's not the same because it's lost the legacy.
The legacy, so the history.
The history, yeah.
So, but doesn't it have the history? It has the history of it was over here, and now it's over here, and so like this board fell off of this. Or you're saying because I replaced them slowly, and because this board went over here, and the ship as a whole is still in existence elsewhere.
You know, the other alternative is there's no such thing as an object.
Oh,
Let's maybe not go there.
I don't know if there's no such thing as an object. That's a bit.
Or perhaps a better way to say it is objects don't have permanence.
Okay, objects don't have permanence.
You know, let's play with this. We're running low on time, but it's fine. We don't time limits. Time is not real, just like the ship of Theseus.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So yeah, let's talk about this. Objects don't have permanence. Everything is constantly in a shape of flux. You know, even the ship of Theseus, even if you're not replacing the woods, splinters of it are falling off. So there's no ship of Theseus. There never was. You're not the same as you were. You never will be. Nothing exists, just our conscious perception of it.
So.
Oh boy. Here we go with the nihilism.
And this is only with items.
Let's start with items.
Okay. So, see if there's anything else I should cook.
I think if you cook that thing. Oh, actually, yeah. If you cook the herb, it'll turn into something cool. I think.
Okay. So, objects don't. So, for instance, all right. Looking at the food.
Okay.
So, you're saying the herb doesn't exist anymore, or the herb doesn't exist at all?
I'm saying under my new theory of I'm sure there's a term for this, total fluctuation.
Okay.
Let's call it that. I'm sure philosophers out there have already defined it, but the theory of total fluctuation says nothing exists because everything is constantly in flux, and anything we see that seems to be the same, it's just our perception of it. We're not seeing the details correctly. Because if you get down to it enough, the electrons are moving around. The electrons in an object are moving around. Nothing ever exists statically, therefore nothing can retain the same being.
Nothing? So what about me?
I mean, if we follow this logic, then yeah, what I see as the you who started this podcast episode a few minutes ago, I perceive it as the same thing because my perception's too narrow to see all the differences. But really, I mean, skin cells have been flaking off, electrons been moving around, your blood's been moving in new shapes, oxygen's been being processed, your brain is experiencing new triggers. You are, if you get down to the details, you are a very different. You have many very great differences from you did 30 minutes ago.
Right, and that's qualitatively, but am I quantitatively I'm different, but am I qualitatively different?
I mean, under this new theory I've just come up with, there's no difference. Do you want to pull out a bow? Maybe?
Yeah, how do I not throw it?
B, I think, is usually cancel.
Okay, cool. So
I think if you just hold ZR, I believe is aim your bow. Yeah.
So you're saying that I'm new, I'm not the same, and I can never be the same? Like, it doesn't matter that I'm, like, quantitatively the same. What only matters is that I'm qualitatively, there's no difference?
Let's define what you mean by quantitative and qualitative here.
So quantitative is where the, like, qualities of something are the same or different. So, for instance, if I style my hair differently, that's a qualitative difference, or quantitative difference. It's something that can be numbered and like measured, right? But qualitatively is as far as like, its identity and its base. A good way of thinking of it is like, is it basically the same thing? Has it significantly changed?
I think that I believe is the entire question of the Ship of Theseus. What does basically the same thing really mean? I think if you boil down to it into common language, honestly I think that's what we've been talking about this whole time.
Is it the same? Well, there's some money. Yeah. Is it the same thing? Or what makes it?
What makes anything the same thing? And I'm saying under my brand new theory of total fluctuation, because nothing is ever the same thing, nothing ever remains the same. Because nothing ever remains the same, nothing is ever the same thing. I don't know if this is acceptable. I don't even know if I really believe that, but it seems our conversation's gone wacky enough that this is a viable theory.
Okay, so then I'm not the same, and like I agree that like everything changes, and so like you can measure different things and say like, for instance, I have less skin cells now than I did when we started this podcast, probably.
Or not less, but different.
Right.
Because you're growing new ones too.
That's true. So like oh, I'm gonna die. Yep. There's no way.
Let's see what happens.
Actually, wait, can I eat something while I'm...
oh yeah, actually, scroll over right. You have the stamina. Let's see with the little green wheel. Yeah, to your left, the skewer.
How he's gonna eat this, I don't know. But he did it because video game logic.
Yeah.
So I definitely have changed, but it seems like it would be unfair for like my mother to look at me and say, "You're not my son."
I mean, the only reason
or for my university to say, "You don't have a bachelor's degree. You're not the person who like walked across the stage to complete those classes."
The hole in to your right. That hole in the cliff.
Oh. I don't know. Let's find out.
Let's find out. This is what this makes this game cool, but... Oh, wait, this is where... Oh, this is the starting...
Oh, what? No, you're lying. Go away.
No. Oh, what a perfect metaphor. Here we are, we thought we were going somewhere, and yet we ended up right back where we started. No progress has been made, just like in our conversation.
Yep, but I like thinking of it as I'm exploring the world, and I know, it's not true. I cooked food.
You know, and we cooked this conversation.
Yes.
Ah, boy. Well, we've been going for a little over 40 minutes now. Are we going to make any progress anymore, or are we just going to call it here with no resolution?
Well, I think we should at least summarize where we're at. So you still think that the ship that pulls into port isn't the same ship?
Yes. I'm going to say there's a let's summarize it. I've come up over this course of the conversation an informal list of what it takes for an object to be itself. Now, you have to have, I'd say the object has to be itself. It has to have the materials, which would be the physical matter, what it's made of. You need to have the legacy, as in those matter have to be in a certain shape, or have to be in a certain shape that has existed for a certain period of time. And then you need the function. The ship of Theseus is no longer a ship if it can't float. So, was there anything else that we needed? Yeah, I would say those three things need to be... An object needs to have those three things over the course of time to remain itself. And if you lose too much of any one of those, or multiple of those, it's no longer the same object. The difficulty lies in defining what is too much of any one of those.
Okay, here's a good way to think of this. Think of a transformer.
Like
is Optimus Prime a semi-truck?
No. He gains the shape of a semi-truck.
So, but he is not a semi-truck.
No.
But when he changes form into a semi-truck, is he Optimus Prime? Or Bumblebee?
Yeah.
Like we still say Bumblebee.
Okay, the Transformers are weird because it is part of their function to be able to switch back and forth at will. Mm-hmm. So I would say, no, it's not. When Optimus Prime changes into his truck shape, he's not a truck, but he's in the shape of a truck. He has the function of a truck, but he doesn't have the materials of a truck. He has a lot more. He has the, what do they call the magic material that lets him do that? Whatever. So he is not a truck. He has the function of a truck. He even has the shape of a truck for time, but he doesn't have the history and he doesn't have the materials.
All right. I know we've said we might put Super, but I really want to bring this
okay, I agree.
What about Anakin Skywalker?
Ooh, okay.
So Anakin Skywalker starts out as a little boy on Tatooine, right?
Right.
And then he becomes a Jedi
But let me just clarify. We're just ignoring my hypothesis of total fluctuation, right? Because that's not. That
yes, I think that's a very hard thing to defend. That would take a lot more skill than either of us have to dig through.
Agreed. I didn't honestly. I never really believed it. I thought it would just be interesting to talk about for, take this to its logical extreme. But anyway, that was a side note. Continue with Anakin Skywalker.
So Anakin Skywalker, while he's on Tatooine and he's like going through his transformation in the first 3 prequels that are arguably okay.
We might need a new a new show about discussing the prequels while playing videos. Anyway,
so I think that while he's going through his transformation and everything, we call him Anakin Skywalker. And then there is a point at the end of the 3rd movie, spoiler, where he goes into his suit and becomes Darth Vader, and we think that the transition is complete. But the question is when Obi-Wan tells Luke that Darth Vader is his father. Is Darth Vader his father? Arguably, he's not.
Well, this gets into the question of names, as in, does the name of a thing change it? Which, that's a whole different topic. I don't think let's not get into...
You don't have to use labels. Just are they the same person?
I see what you're saying. Again, people are tricky because even normally people are totally fluctuating. But I would say, if we're going to assume that you are the same person that you were as a child, right, when you were in kindergarten, I would say, yeah, Darth Vader is the same person. He might have a sweet new set of clothes. He might talk with a new accent, but he still has... He might talk with a new accent. He might have some burn marks.
Be a little whiny.
A little less whiny. A little more menacing. But he still has... let's talk about... let me go back through my checklist. He still has the same... function. He's a person who walks around, can wield the Force.
I argue that he doesn't have the same. He has a very different function. Anakin is not the person who, destroys planets and chokes out people because they speak out against him and say that the Force is dumb.
Well, then, okay. Who were you when you were in kindergarten? Were you making podcasts like this? No. Then Then you don't have the same function, so you're not the same person. I don't think that's. I think what a person does isn't necessarily indicative of their function. I'm using function in the terms of, I guess, your capabilities. Anakin did have the capability to, choke out youngins. He didn't when he was a kid, but he theoretically had that capability. So anyway, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. Darth Vader, the man in the black suit, famous villain, most famous villain of all time. That's don't quote me on that. I don't think that's true.
Very recognizable there.
Very recognizable. He still has the same function. He can walk. He can talk. He might a few functions that might be slightly different, as in he doesn't eat in the same way, but more or less he has the same function. He has the same shape. Or the same.
I don't know, man. He doesn't have legs no more.
Okay, the same materials, as in he's still inside the suit. He's made of flesh.
Actually, he's a cyborg now. He's got all kinds of things that don't make no sense no more.
We're getting into transhumanism.
He literally has changed and replaced parts of his body. Over 50% of Anakin is not there anymore. I don't think you have an argument to say that Darth Vader is Luke's father in any way.
So you're saying he is not Luke's father?
Yes, from the sense that we're saying his personal identity and is it the same ship with Theseus? No, he's not. Too much of it has been replaced. He doesn't serve the same function as
Okay, for clarity, are you saying based on my logic that's the case, or is this what you're agreeing with yourself?
I agree with this myself, because in this case, it's the ship has been replaced.
See, this is funny because...
And the function has changed.
I've gotten to the point where I say, no, it's basically, even though some things are different, some superficial things are different, he still has the same legacy. He definitely has all his memories, and it's the same person. He has mostly the same matter. This is, again, question of mostly.
By definition, mostly he does not.
Alright, I think...
He can't even breathe on his own!
So are you saying if you get into a car accident tomorrow and you need assistance to breathe, you're no longer the same person?
No, I'm saying that my function has changed. My ability to breathe is no longer present.
Right, one of your functions, but by and large...
His ability to eat, his ability to see... I get to slow down time. Cool.
Yeah, pretty cool. And then you activate it to freeze slow down time for an object, and then if you hit it, you build up momentum. It's actually really cool. I don't think it works on most creatures, but
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
just to try it out. We can finish off this shrine, and that'll probably time out. See, so the highlighted thing orange is the only thing you can mark it.
Then I stop it.
You have to highlight over it.
Nice.
Yeah. Oh, you jumped off.
I realized. I thought it would just stop the
Oh, there you go.
itself. Hey, I made it.
You made it. I actually didn't do it. Right. So I think Darth Vader is the same, but you're saying he's not the same.
I don't think he is the same.
So you're saying
you could say he's
basically if a
Skywalker.
person gains life-altering surgery and has a significant change in personality, it's not. You're saying you're not the same person.
Yes.
All right.
Because especially with this, we use personality, or we use identity like this to mean, like, in relation to people. Like, that's how we tend to mean it. Like, in what way, like, could he be considered the same person? By almost every standard, he's changed everything.
See, but by my standards, he's not, because he's still, he's got more or less the same flesh. He's still got the same legacy and history. You can also move while you have that. So you don't
So now what can I do?
There you go. But you're not quite done with the turn. Yes, he has this... So you're saying this is even applicable to modern people. So for example, if, again, let's say you got in a car accident tomorrow, that I hope you don't, but, if you got in a car accident tomorrow, you had to have several new... let's say you had to get some strong cybernetics. Do you need all those torches?
Oh, do I? You say I don't need them?
I mean, maybe you don't. I don't know. I'll leave it up to you. Yeah, like 4 torches, 3. Yeah, whatever. And as a result of this accident, your personality changes fundamentally. Let's say, as a result of this, you become bitter and cynical, and you don't like talking about philosophy anymore. That big change in personality.
Yes.
Are you no longer Justin Mesa? Justin, the man I know.
I don't see a way, like in any significant way, where you could say that I am. I think that, like, again, qualitative, or no, not even qualitatively.
You're the wrong one.
Okay, I was hoping it was metal.
No. You need to switch to the magnet, or the station. So you're saying you're not the same person, which is. But then you change so much as a child growing up. How can you say you're the same person you were as a child? You might, remember, you've already established you don't have the same body as you did back then.
Right.
So you don't have the same personality as you did back then. People's personality change quite a lot as they grow older. So are you the same person you were as a 5-year-old? Are you the same person?
Am I the same person? See, that's the thing. It's like it's.
Are you the? Let's take the word person out of it. Are you the same? If you were the ship of Theseus, would you remain the same?
See, it seems like I want to say no, that I'm not the same. Like, I'm not the same person because I've had so much change in various ways. Like, but my hexaity, which going back to that, is still the same. But somehow I am both the same and not the same person.
Oh boy, that certainly isn't confusing.
Because it's unclear what we're like. I think the problem comes down to about Theseus is that it's unclear what we mean by is it the same.
You know what? That's a good point. I think it's fair to say the ship of Theseus. It sounds like a simple question, but really it's there's too much undefined here. There's too much left up to definition, and what your definition is will define what your answer is. So
yes.
You know what? I think that's a good place to stop.
Yep.
Our answer to the ship of Theseus, everyone on the internet, it doesn't have an answer. It's a bad question. You're dumb for thinking about it. And you just wasted almost an hour of your life watching us talk in circles about something that doesn't have an answer.
And walk in circles.
And walk in circles. Well, man, what a perfect analogy. I'm so glad we picked this game to be our first game. Such a perfect analogy. We went nowhere, and yet somehow we did something.
Exactly. That's philosophy for you in a nutshell.
That's philosophy in a nutshell. Well, I think that's a good place to stop. Thank you so much for tuning in to this waste of time. existential discussion on whether you exist, video game playthrough where we're not very good at the game. I don't know. What are we? Are we the same YouTube channel as we were last week? I don't know. This is causing mental stress. Does that mental stress make me different than I was at the beginning of this episode? I'm not sure. Let's wrap this conclusion up. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please make sure to, if you liked it, leave a like. Drop a subscribe. That would really help us a lot. Help us get out noticed to be more than under 20. It would be really cool if we could get multiple subscribers. If you want to leave a comment about what we should talk about next, a game we should play next, or, hey, leave a comment about how you don't actually exist, or how you do actually exist and we're both wrong and dumb for not understanding it, please leave a comment. We'd love to hear it. But with that all out of the way, unless there's anything else to say, this has been Amateur Philosophers Play Games. See ya.
Have a good week.